This video will cover a short introduction to rhetoric. The essential question is, how does an author use rhetoric to convey a message? We're going to define rhetoric as the specific features of texts that make them meaningful, purposeful, and effective. Now, keep in mind that these texts can be written or spoken. In our definition of rhetoric, we're also going to include the art of analyzing all the language choices that a writer or speaker can make to make their text meaningful, purposeful, and effective. Take a moment to think about speeches that you've seen or heard. Maybe it was President Obama making a speech on TV, or maybe it was your minister delivering a sermon in church. When someone is speaking, they can use inflection, they can use gestures, they can even use facial expressions to help convey their meaning and get their message across. Writers don't have the luxury of those visual strategies of getting their message across. So writers have to use rhetorical strategies. When a writer wants to create an effective essay, speech, or letter, then he or she has to think about a few key elements. And ourselves as readers, we also have to make sure that we understand those elements as well as their effect on the argument. Let's look at this rhetorical triangle. It shows us how the subject, speaker, and audience, or the subject, writer, and reader interact. And then it also shows us how this interaction is going to determine the structure and the language of the argument that the speaker or writer is going to use. So once a writer decides what they're going to write about, why they're going to write about it, and for whom they're going to write about it, then they have to think about how they're going to do it. And that how is rhetoric. If a writer wants his or her audience to accept this argument that they are presenting, then he or she has to first think about what's going to be the most effective way of appealing to their audience. And there are three basic types of appeals. The three types of appeals are logos, pathos, and ethos. When a writer makes an appeal to logos, then they are appealing to reason. They're offering clear, rational ideas. It means that this writer has a clear main idea. They have a thesis. They have specific details, examples, facts, stats, or other expert testimony to use to support their ideas. And of course, their ideas are logical. When a writer uses an appeal to pathos, then that means that they're appealing to emotion by engaging the emotions of their audience. So these appeals might include vivid, concrete descriptions, personal anecdotes, or figurative language. And finally, when a writer makes an appeal to ethos, they are trying to show that they are credible and trustworthy. They're trying to emphasize how the writer and the audience have some values in common. And most of the time, it's the writer's reputation that's going to establish ethos right away. The writer's ethos can come from expertise, knowledge, experience, training, sincerity, or any combination of those things. And that's what gives the audience a reason to listen.